What is up, RPG and Zelda fans? In this video, I'll be ranking all of the dungeons in The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. I did an Ages one already, and I will be doing one with all of the dungeons from both of them eventually. But today, I will just be doing the Seasons dungeons, and I'll be going more in depth in this one than in the one where I rank both Ages and Seasons. So, yeah, let's get right into this. So, the first dungeon, and we're just going to go in order, including the Hero's Cave, Onox's Castle, and, of course, the Room of Rites. So, yeah, let's get into this with the first dungeon in Oracle Seasons, sorry. And that is the Gnarled Root Dungeon. Yeah, this is not a great, I'm sorry, but hopefully you're not a fan of this dungeon because I'm about to roast it, but this even makes the Spirit's Grave look good from the original. Like, this is bad. This is a bad first dungeon. I almost was like, do I really want to keep playing the game after this dungeon? I was like, yeah, that's not. But it's not the worst thing I've ever played. I will give it that. I do like that there's an old man in this dungeon because, you know, usually it's just owls. So I think that's probably my favorite part of the dungeon, that there's an old man. Like, this is Zelda 1. But other than that, it's pretty bad. Getting the Ember Seeds in a dungeon just felt so weird after playing Oracle of Ages. And I was just like, yeah, that's not a great dungeon item. Also, the boss is literally just a worse form of a Zelda 1 boss. So that's depressing. It's just way too easy in this one. You just like charge sword attack it like once and it's pretty much dead. So that's depressing. And the mini boss, I have no idea what the mini boss of this dungeon is. I'm going to look at it because I can't remember. Let's see. What do we got here? What do we got? Mini boss. Brother Gorius. Yeah, I have no idea what that is. I don't remember that. Does he just like run around? Yep, he runs. Oh, yeah, he runs around throwing a boomerang at you. So it's just like one of the guys from the original Zelda 1. But this time, there's just one of them. Or two. I guess there's two. But they're just so easy. They're throwing little boomerangs at you. So, yep, not only are the bosses trash, but the whole dungeon is kind of trash. Sorry, creators of this game, but you made way better dungeons later on. Some of my favorite dungeons in the series are in Oracle Seasons. And unfortunately, Gnarled Root Dungeon is kind of bad. So I'm going to... am I throwing it in the D tier? Yeah, I think I'm going to throw it in the D tier. Actually, no. Add a row below. Not quite like an F, but an E. We're going to go E tier for the Gnarled Root Dungeon. It is pretty bad. Way too much copied stuff. A bad dungeon item. Not good. All right. Next, we have got the second dungeon of the game, which was also underwhelming and also almost made me quit playing the game. And that is the Snake's Remains. As I've said many times on this channel before, anytime there is a dungeon where the dungeon item is the freaking power bracelet, I want to cry, because that does not make a dungeon fun. Picking up pots is something that everyone should be able to do in general, because Link, how do you think you can swing a sword if you can't pick up a pot? I just don't get it. Anyway, whatever. It's a fine dungeon. I do like that there's that one of those central thingies where one of the spinneroony things where I don't know what they're called. I don't know what this game calls them, but one of those rooms where like you walk up and then you go left and then you have to do all that stuff. So whatever those are called. I don't think there's even a name for them, but the dungeon boss Dodongo is actually pretty good. It is definitely a more interesting take on Dodongo because you have to blow him up, but then you have to pick him up and throw him onto the spikes. So that is actually one of the better iterations of Dodongo. Also, we have Facade, which is the mini-boss of this dungeon, which is a copy of a dungeon boss from Link's Awakening. So we've actually got a great iteration of Facade and Dodongo, and they are copies. Same with the last dungeon, but they innovate on those ones and make them better. Facade might not be better, but it's different. So, you know, I'll give this dungeon that. But again, Power Bracelet being the dungeon item is just not my favorite. So I'm going to have to say that this is a pretty mediocre dungeon as a whole. And I'm going to throw it in the... I'll throw it in the C tier. I think that's fair. It's just very average Zelda dungeon. By the end of it, yes, I did like the Dodongo fight. That was quite a highlight. Facade was a highlight, but the dungeon itself is not well designed. It's just not very fun when the power bracelet is literally the dungeon item. All right, next we have got, I swear I like a lot of dungeons in this game, but just the first few are quite the slog. Poison Moth Slayer, yep, this is another pretty mid one, but since we get the rock feather, I think that inherently makes it a little bit more fun than these last two. So, yep, that's good, I guess. So, yeah, I can't complain too much about the rock feather because that is one of my favorite Zelda items after all. However, the layout of the dungeon is not the greatest. There's nothing way too special here. Yeah, let's see. Mini bosses and boss wise, it's not too bad. I do definitely think that the wing dungeon from Oracle Ages was much better than this one. So that is sad, but yeah, the boss of the dungeon is Mothula, and you kind of just jump and swing the sword. It's nothing interesting, whereas the dungeon boss of the Oracle Ages one was definitely a little more interesting. Actually, way more interesting. One of my favorite bosses in the series, actually, at least in the 2D series, where you have to jump on a bunch of platforms and kill this like Mario thwomp. So yeah, this is just a big step down from the wing dungeon. And yeah, maybe if these games weren't so like intrinsically connected, I wouldn't be so annoyed. But yeah, it's just not good. Yeah, it's not the greatest dungeon. So, but the Rock's Feather does make it all right. So that is one thing. There are a couple of decent puzzles. The mini boss is not too bad, kind of a whack-a-mole with some weird squid thingy. So you know what? I'm gonna say this is also not too bad. I'm going to throw it in the C tier, though, as well. Higher C tier than Snake's Remains, though. So, yeah, not too great, but not too good either. All right, next in the fourth place, not the fourth place, the fourth dungeon. It might be in fourth place, though. We'll have to see because I haven't ranked it yet. But anyway, the next dungeon in the game is the Dancing Dragon Dungeon. And this is where I got hooked on this game. I'm very happy I didn't quit because those first few dungeons are a slog, whereas the first few dungeons of Oracle Ages are much better, in my opinion. So anyway, the Dancing Dragon Dungeon is absolutely a banger. And we get the dungeon item isn't that great. It's the slingshot, which is quite a downgrade from the seed cannon from Oracle Ages, but this just has a fun dungeon design. I feel like this actually much better utilizes the Rock's Feather than the previous dungeon does. Yeah, and it's fun. Like, this is just a fun dungeon all around. It is kind of like just, it's a bit more combat focused, a bit more platforming and jumping around and stuff. It's not too like, I mean, you don't really have any like super unique items at this point in the game. So it's more about the combat, but the mini boss of this dungeon is absolutely, wait, is it this one? Is it the mini boss? It might be later in the game I'm thinking of actually. Or no, maybe it is this one. Let me see. No, I don't think it's this one. Never mind. But there is a very good... Oh, this one is fun too, though. The mini boss of this dungeon is pretty fire. You have to keep lighting up these torches in the middle of the room, which means you have to keep going back to the middle of the room and putting yourself into danger. You have to keep lighting those torches, and then it shows a shadow under the real one because he keeps cloning himself. So yeah, that is a really good boss fight. Great for a mini boss. Just absolutely fire for a mini boss, actually. And then the actual dungeon boss is definitely a step down. It's Goma. It is definitely a little bit more interesting, Goma, because he has this like big claw that you have to kill first. But compared to the Link's Awakening Goma and the Ocarina of Time Goma, this is a complete letdown. But that mini boss is super good. So that's cool. I think this just utilizes all the dungeon items that you've gained in the game so far pretty well, and it just makes for a pretty solid dungeon. I'm going to throw this one up in the A tier. The game really picks up during the Dancing Dragon dungeon, so I'm very glad that this one exists, because otherwise I would have probably dropped the game, and that would have not been fun because I wanted to create content for it. So that's fun. All right, let's move into the Unicorn's Cave, which is a fantastic dungeon. Honestly, absolutely slaps. So what we get in this dungeon is really good. What was the dungeon item again? Oh, the magnetic gloves. One of the all-time items of the series. Oh my gosh, the magnetic gloves were so fun. Especially with the Roc's feather, like sometimes you would jump and then like magnetic gloves around. It was so cool. Great enemy design here. You get the magnetic gloves surprisingly early in the dungeon compared to a lot of dungeon items, I feel like. So you actually get to use them quite a bit, so that's nice. The 2D platforming section where you're like Roc's feather jumping and then magnet gloving is just awesome. I freaking love the magnet gloves. Like, call me biased, but this dungeon is just perfect because of the magnet gloves. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just so good. Let's see, what is the mini boss? Mini boss of this dungeon. Okay, Siger. Oh yeah, he's kind of like a rolling tiger thingy. Yeah, this mini boss is pretty trash, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, that's not too good. But really, this dungeon excels because it has one of the greatest items of the series. And yeah, Dig Dogger's not a great dungeon boss either. Definitely is definitely a better iteration on Dig Dogger than the original from Zelda 1. But yeah, you have to hit it. Oh wait, no, this is actually an amazing boss fight. Wait, hold up. I love this boss. I forgot what this one was. So yeah, you have to use the metallic ball, and you only can harm him with the magnet gloves. And then you have to beat him up over and over again, and then he breaks up into smaller versions of himself, which you can either hit with your sword or you can like smash around. It's just so cool because the boss is less of the challenge. The challenge is more of using the magnetic gloves to kill the boss. So you have to like really have mastered the magnetic gloves, and it's just awesome because the boss himself, he kind of just jumps around and does absolutely nothing, but you can kill yourself. And it's just kind of funny. So yeah, I think that this is just a great dungeon. Magnetic gloves make this one of my favorite 2D Zelda dungeons, and one of my favorite Zelda dungeons in general. So we're going to throw it up in the S+ tier. All right, next we have the good old whatever the next dungeon is called. That is... Got to look at my little thing because I got to look at my notes, and my notes are longer than they should be because I write too much. All right, next we've got the Ancient Ruins, which I don't think it's quite as good as the Ancient Tomb in... Is it? Maybe it's better. No, I don't think it's better than the Ancient Tomb from Oracle Ages, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, the Ancient Ruins, we get the magical boomerang, which I did not expect in a 2D Zelda game. A controllable homing boomerang. And what is even better than the boomerang is we get to use the magnetic gloves even more. Yes, any dungeon where we get the magnetic gloves is instantly, I just love it. But the boomerang is nice, but I will say the problem is it uses the same button mapping as actually moving. So if you've already ran out of time with the boomerang, then you can actually like walk off a cliff, which once you get good at it, it's fine. But yeah, the magic boomerang doesn't actually have nearly as much puzzle utilization as I would have liked. I don't really know what would have been there, but yeah, it's just not quite as good. However, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not the best thing ever, but it's pretty good. So yeah, anyway, lots of cool magnetic gloves puzzles here though. Lots of great rooms, a decent amount of utilization of just a lot of dungeon items you've got before. Yeah, the magical boomerang is just an awesome item, even though it's not utilized as well as I would have liked for the dungeon. But we also get a Vire mini boss fight, which is pretty fun if you're playing a linked game because you get to see him again and it's a little fun and you owned him already. And yeah, it's fun. But yeah, it's a really easy boss fight, but it's also just fun to see a Vire show up again. I did play Oracle Ages first, but either way, I would say it for either game because it happens both ways. But the Manhandler is the absolute highlight of this dungeon. And yes, it does use the magical boomerang so well. So this dude's like spinning around like freaking heck, going super fast all around the dungeon like a crazy idiot. And you have to curve the boomerang to hit the heads over and over again. And it's going fast. So you have to have mastered the magical boomerang. And I'm so glad this fight made you do that because frankly, the utilization puzzle-wise was pretty awful. But in the combat, oh my goodness, this was an amazing boss fight. One of my favorite bosses in the whole Zelda series, which is funny, but it literally is a Manhandler, which is in many Zelda games. But this one is just super fun. Crazy boss fight, like one of the hardest Zelda bosses. Is crazy. Super fun fight. But yeah, overall with lots of cool magnetic puzzles, lots of the amazing boss, and just some good rooms in general. I just love this freaking Ancient Ruins. I don't quite think it's as good as the Ancient Tomb. I'm only comparing them because they have the word ancient in it. And I think they're both the 6th dungeon in the game. But anyway, regardless of what I'm saying, actually, nope, it is not the 6th dungeon in that game. Just ignore everything I'm saying about the Ancient Tomb. That will be for another video. But anyway, the Ancient Ruins is just an amazing dungeon overall. So I'm going to throw it up into the S tier. Yeah, I'll throw it in the S tier. All right. Next, we have got I think the Explorer's Crypt. Yes, the Explorer's Crypt. Okay, this place is just amazing. It's just amazing. Yeah, this one is actually set in... Nope, the next one is set in Subrosia. Never mind. This Explorer's Crypt is just awesome, though. So the dungeon item in this place is an upgraded form of the Rock's Feather, which is so much more fun. The Rock's Cape in this game is so fun to use. I think you just straight up get the Rock's Cape right away in Minish Cap, which is nice. But yeah, the Rock's Cape is a great upgrade. And again, this just perfectly uses the Rock's Cape. It perfectly uses the Magnet Gloves. Again, I keep ranting about the Magnet Gloves, but it also perfectly uses the Boomerang. And it actually has some good uses for the Bigoron sword if you go get that. So that's fun. And it's just a well-designed dungeon. It's pretty small for a dungeon, I feel like, but it is a really good dungeon. And it is definitely a bit more puzzling, more confusing than some of the other dungeons in the game thus far. So it's just a really good dungeon as a whole. But I don't think it's quite as good as the Ancient Ruins because the bosses are the Poe Sisters and the Gleeok. Is it the Poe Sisters? Poe Sisters? Oh no, the Poe Sisters absolutely slap in this game. Okay. No, the Poe Sisters are what I was talking about earlier. Okay, so the Poe Sisters fight, you have to be... So there's 4 torches scattered around the room, and you have to run around because if you unlight all the torches, you lose. So you have to keep lighting the torches over and over again while hitting the guys, and it's just crazy. It's so fun. Amazing mini boss fight. And the Gleeok fight at the end of the dungeon is so easy. Like the easiest boss in the whole game. Definitely a step down from the Manhandler. It's just a Gleeok from like the original game. But if you have the Bigoron sword at this point, you just like slash it like 3 times across the whole body and it dies. It's so cheesable. It's hilarious how easy it is to kill that stupid boss. But, you know, the Explorer's Crypt is a great place all around. With the Rock's Cape, the Magnet Gloves, and all that, I think the dungeon design is a bit worse than the previous dungeon, the Ancient Ruins. It's definitely a bit smaller too, but because you have the Rocks Cape, and I freaking love that thing. And this one has a verticality to it, which is pretty cool for a 2D dungeon. Most of them don't have verticality to it. So I'm going to say it just edges out the ancient ruins. I'm going to throw it in the S tier. Yeah, we'll put it there. All right. Yeah, just a little bit above. I bet on a different day I could probably switch them. But I think just because you have another dungeon item with the Rocks Cape, I just like it a little better. So, yeah, call me biased. But, okay. Next, we have got the 8th dungeon in the game, which is going to be the Sword and Shield Maze. Oh my goodness, is this dungeon just amazing. One of the best dungeons in the whole Zelda series. I'm going to throw it straight up to the S++ tier, and no one's going to talk me out of that. Geez, this dungeon just like freaking blew me away. I actually beat it for the first time ever like an hour ago, but I swear this isn't recency bias. This place is just so good. It perfectly utilizes everything you've got so far. It's brain melting, 7D chess. There's so many like secret staircases you have to do. You get the item here is the hyper slingshot, which allows you to shoot 3 seeds at a time, which the dungeon item, once I first got it, I was like, oh, this is not going to be a great dungeon. But then once I thought the dungeon was over, there was like 12 more screens of craziness. There's a whole new mechanic where you had to throw these ice crystals into the bottom of Subrosia to freeze it over. It was giving Eagle's Tower. It was so, so good. One of the greatest Zelda dungeons ever. It's probably my second favorite 2D Zelda dungeon after the probably my second favorite after Jobby Jobby's Belly from Oracle Ages. It's so good though. It's just hilarious how amazing this dungeon is with the sword shield dungeon. Just the first half is awesome. It perfectly uses all your items gained up to this point. It perfectly uses the hyper slingshot. It just has a fantastic block puzzle, which I usually don't say, but yeah, it's got one of those spinny things in the middle that I like a lot. Great utilization of the Rocks Cape and even the Pegasus seeds and just everything you've gotten so far. This is just a perfect Zelda dungeon. And then it already would have been my second, like, top 3. It probably wouldn't have beaten the Eagle's Tower at that point, but then there's just a whole like underground portion where you have to throw ice blocks into the Subrosia, and oh my goodness, this is just a masterpiece of a dungeon. Sword and Shield Maze, you surprised the heck out of me. One of the best things ever put in a Zelda game. Absolutely fantastic. The one thing that holds it back a little bit for me is the bosses. The bosses are pretty mid. The mid boss is actually kind of cool. You have to either melt the icicle a little bit and then throw it at his face, which I didn't like. The other way you can do it is shoot fire seeds at him with the hyper slingshot, which I thought was a lot more fun, jumping around. So the mini boss was actually pretty solid, but the final boss was just a little too easy. You just jump in his face, master sword or bigger on sword, and just is melted. Not quite as easy as the last one, but just super, super fun. So, yeah, this is a perfect dungeon. Perfect. Down to the last of my detail. All right, I just wanted to give some tribute to such a great dungeon. All right, that's enough awkward silence. All right, let's move in to the Hero's Cave, which kind of sucks, but not that badly. You know, I'm actually going to throw this in B tier, dare I say. I think this is actually better than these dungeons. It actually has some fun puzzles. Again, magnetic gloves. But it's pretty good. A huge step up from the Oracle Ages Hero's Cave, which pissed me off so badly. But the Hero's Cave here actually has some great puzzles, and I'm going to throw it in the B tier. That's kind of funny to say that the Hero's Cave is a B tier dungeon, but you know what? That's where we're at right now. So, yep, that's fun. All right, yeah, it's a fun little mini dungeon with magnetic gloves. So, yep, that's great. All right, next we have the good old Onox Castle, which is super underwhelming in my opinion. I'm going to throw it in the D tier. Yep, we get like 2 rooms and then you fight the final boss. In Oracle of Ages, you get to climb up a cool tower that's been there the whole game. Nope, in Oracle of Seasons, you get 2 rooms of a random castle you've never seen before. And then you fight the final boss, which is a pretty underwhelming final boss. The first phase is literally an upgraded ball and chain soldier. Yippee! And the second phase is cool, I will say. You jump on his hands and slash at a gemstone on his forehead. But compared to the Oracle Ages one that has like 4 forms and is super fun, what was this? I'm sorry, but after all the cool dungeon bosses, like Dodongo was probably better than this because at least that had more moves to use. I don't know. This final boss was underwhelming. Probably the worst Zelda final boss, the Onox one. Now, do I think it's as bad as that pretty bad first dungeon? No, but it's pretty bad. All right, and then the Room of Rites, I'm going to throw in the B tier. Above, yeah, the Hero's Cave. I think the B tier, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, the Twin Rova and Ganon fights absolutely slap. And yes, that's all that's in this place. I get it. But they just absolutely slap. And it's a great ending to the game. So yeah, I'm going to throw that in the B tier. All right, thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down below your favorite dungeons in Oracle of Seasons. There are a lot of dungeons in this game. I do definitely think that Oracle of Ages has a better set of dungeons in general, but this one, I feel like this game is definitely backloaded with the good dungeons. Like the earlier dungeons in this game are pretty painful to play through, but the later ones are fantastic except for the awful Onyx's castle. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you thought. Do you agree, disagree? I really was excited to make this video because, frankly, way too little people talk about the Oracle games. Put together, they are my favorite Zelda game of all time. Absolute masterpiece. And apart, they're probably still in my top 5, both of them. So hopefully you enjoyed, and thank you so much, and have a great day. Peace out, Zelda fans.